First up, we have a really interesting question from CJ Stows, who says, quote, I have an opportunity to do a big project in a prominent location, but for an amount that is lower than I would normally look to receive. Have you ever taken a significant loss on a project financially because you knew it would benefit you and just to be part of the project to get your name out? This is such a great question. Because if you are a maker of anything and you get at all facile and good at it, you're gonna be asked to do it for free for exposure. And most of the time, it's gonna be a bullshit offer. Most of the people telling you it's for great exposure, they're just hoping to get it for free. The exposure it's not built in. It's just like a thing they hope will add value to you. And it's mostly bull, seriously. However, there is a really important part of both your early, mid, and late careers in which taking jobs for less money than you would normally charge makes complete business sense. I'm not sure I have a set of hard and fast axiomatic rules to follow, but I will give you a couple of examples. I mean, one question to ask is, could they get anyone to do this, or are they looking for your point of view? So way early on in my time in San Francisco, I think 1992 or 3, a production company reached out because they wanted a friend of mine and I to do some paper cutout animations for a commercial they were doing. And it was a very straightforward aesthetic. They had a guideline to follow, and they needed something like 20 seconds of animation, which can be a real bear to produce. That's so understating the situation. And they were offering, I can't remember what they were offering exactly, but it was good money for 23-year-old me. It was like $3 or $4 grand for the pair of us to do this animation. Was it $3 or $4 grand? Look, the amount was real, would have paid a month of our rent or more at that point, but it was also like a tenth of what the market would bear. Like, they already had a design, they already had how they wanted it to execute. There was nothing we were adding to the situation except sweat equity. And they were still asking us to do it for like a fifth, I think, of what the market would bear. Like this, yeah. And I knew what the market would bear. I knew they would go out, if they went to any animator, they'd pay this much, and they were offering us like a fifth of that. And I got in this big fight with my friend because he's like, we should take it. It establishes us, it puts us in some good stead with the production company. I'm like, it's not a real offer. They're trying to screw us just to save some money. And I don't feel like working extra hard so these guys can make more money from this commercial. That one felt wrong to me. And I realized later that specifically one of the reasons it felt wrong was they didn't come to me and my friend for our specific point of view on that. If that's the case, well, that changes my math somewhat because one, I get someone else to pay for me to do something. That's one, right? And it doesn't necessarily mean that they're paying me, but they're paying for the execution, right? So they're paying materials and day costs and stuff like that. Two, I get to explore, or I get to work with a collaborator to explore our point of view about a project aesthetically. And that's always really interesting. That's always interesting enough to make me think a little further. But that wasn't what was happening here. There's a joke, I remember reading a tweet from a Seattle band that made a joke about Café du Nord here in San Francisco that just said, Café du Nord has offered every Seattle band for the last 30 years a show for great exposure. Let's see. I also, way back in 1996, I worked with a computer magazine and designed and built Cyberhome 2000, like the home of the future. They had found me through some various avenues and as an artist, as a designer, and I did that job for nothing. And it was weeks and weeks and weeks of work. I contracted several people, friends of mine, I paid to build stuff. I never made a penny from this, but I don't regret that job one bit. It was a real education in doing what would end up being a nationally syndicated magazine article about the home of the future. I got to collaborate with a bunch of really interesting artists. That was one in which I walked into it with clear eyes. But at the same time, I was working with a magazine editor, wonderful guy, Joel Enos. Do you remember Joel Enos? Joel Enos. Anyway, Joel, I really liked him, and that matters. That really matters. Like about a year after that animation offer, another production company called me up and said, hey, you have this big 1,000-square-foot loft. We'd like to use that loft to build some sets in. Could we rent your loft for a week? And I was like, yeah, that sounds amazing. I have a big 1,000-square-foot loft. I'm not using it right now. You could use it and I'll make some money. And they were like, great. Hey, do you think maybe you could participate in building these sets? And I said, yeah, sure, within reason. And they were like, so here are the 5 sets that we need. How much money do you need for the materials? And all of a sudden, this request to rent my shop was turning into a conversation in which they were assuming I was going to build all of these sets. And I called up, and we're talking about amounts of money here that are like in the $2,000 to $3,000 range all in, right? Which again, at this point in time, that's still a lot of money to me. And I called up my friend Todd, and I was like, who's a scenic painter, and I was like, Todd, these guys are offering me what's gonna end up being like $4 or $5 grand maybe to build some sets for a commercial. Am I getting screwed here? And he was like, dude, you are so getting screwed. You gotta send those guys packing. That's a $15,000 job if it's, you know, no matter what, that's a base level $15,000 job. And I sent them packing gleefully, and they were pissed. But the thing is like our conversations had all this mission creep in them, and I was feeling like on my back feet. So here, I said I didn't have any hard and fast axiomatic rules, but I might. And one of them is, what is it like to deal with the client? Is it weird? If it's weird, it's going to be weird all the way through. And this is an early Jamie Heineman education I got way back when I was first working for Jamie in like 1992, 93. He turns to me and says, look, however a client is in the bidding process is how they're going to be all the way through the job. So if they're a pain in the ass and they're riding you hard before they've even sent a check, oh, get ready and strap yourself in, because they're gonna be awful all the way through your job. And the same applies for free gigs. If communicating with the client is funny and strange, it's gonna remain that way. So like if you don't feel good about the interaction up till now, it's not getting any better. You have to ask yourself what you're willing to put up with. And you know, working for your friends for free is completely what it is about to have friends. You should be helping your friends make their movies on the weekends and shoot their photographs and build their sets and do that stuff. That is what friendship in your 20s is all about. It's about like everyone getting together and pulling on each other's ropes for a while. That sounds weird. You know, pulling on the same rope, like we're all working on the same gig. Anyway, there are plenty of occasions when it makes sense to take a financial hit to do something. But the real questions are asking yourself what you're getting out of it. Is it just exposure as an abstraction? That's not enough. Is it exposure for what you do? That might be enough. Is it a chance for you to really explore what you do aesthetically and have control over that? That matters even more. Do you like the people that have reached out to you? Do you like dealing with them? Even in the first 2 minutes of the call, these are the things to pay attention to. That matters. I hope that was helpful. It's a really hard thing to do. Everybody has to do it. Everyone takes gigs for less than they're worth. I mean, for all sorts of reasons. Sometimes it's a charity. Sometimes it's a group you really like. Sometimes it's somebody you've always wanted to work with. Those are all fantastic reasons. But really pay attention to if you're doing a job for free, it should be fun as hell. It should be hard work. Like you should bust your ass, but it should be fun. You should be looking at it and thinking, is this gonna be fun? And am I really gonna be fed by doing this? If not, tell them to go away. Brian asks, are there clothes you only wear in your shop, or do you wear your normal clothes in both your home and your shop? that is funny that you ask, because there's definitely clothes I wear in the shop and clothes that I wear at home. And today, of all days, I happen to wear a weekend shirt on a weekday. On the weekdays, Tested, we have so many wonderful Tested shirts and Savage Industry shirts that we have sold over the years that I have like 40, and I have 2 drawers full of them, and that's what I wear during the weeks. It's always wearing the Tested or Savage Industries shirts. But this morning, knowing I was doing this live stream, I don't know, I felt like wearing the Rebel Alliance shirt. And this is one they sell on Cotton Bureau. Cotton Bureau sells this. I also thought about wearing the Empathy, Kindness, and Respect shirt, but that was dirty. Yeah, so I have always had work shirts and home shirts. For the longest time on Mythbusters, they were Express shirts. That was just a common, God, who was it that put those out? Anyway, in the middle of Mythbusters, around 2006 or so, I bought 100 of these medium crew neck t-shirts from Express. I still have about a dozen left. When I did Mythbusters Junior, I wore a great shirt by Frame, which is a terrific clothing company, with a seam down the back. They're really neat. I still have all of those. And now it's all Cotton Bureau. Cotton Bureau, whether it's a weekday or a weekend. Thank you so much for watching. If you'd like to support us even further, you can by becoming a Tested member. Details are, of course, below, but it includes all sorts of perks, and we're building them all the time. You get advanced word and behind-the-scenes photos of some of our projects. Questions, you get to ask direct questions during my live streams, and we have some members-only videos, including the Adam real-time series of unbroken, unedited shots of me working here in the shop. They are weirdly meditative. Thank you guys so much. I'll see you on the next one.